So a very warm welcome to all the participants from CSIO Chandigarh and Indian National Young Academy of Sciences INYAS. I'm Dr. Pooja, Senior Scientist at CSIO Chandigarh and INYAS member. And my INYAS colleague, Dr. Rohit Sharma, will be moderating today's session. As we all are aware that empowering girls and women to enter STEM fields of study and career and stay in the course is an imperative. With this objective, CSIO and INYAS Chandigarh chapter has come together to organize this 3-day webinar series, She Inspires. The aim of this series is to enhance awareness of the importance of STEM education for girls and women, to present role models and get guidance on addressing challenges in STEM as a girl student or a researcher. So with this brief introduction about the program, I first of all invite Dr. H.K. Sardana, Chief Scientist, CSIO Chandigarh, to address the participant and welcome our keynote speaker, Dr. Ranjana Agarwal, Director, WISTEDS. Over to you, sir. Sir, you're not audible to us. Sardana, sir.
Am I audible? Good afternoon.
Yeah, you're audible, sir.
Okay. Really hearty welcome to CSIO INYAS family and organizing and participating team members. Really thrilled to know that this group of young women has been leading for quite some time now and are bringing forefront their initiatives towards all women and men. And this issue of equal participation, if we say of genders, men versus women, or we should say men and women, is now reaching a level where there are less of differences seen. And the credit goes to led by some excellent women. So this gender comparison that comes at times is still to be looked at, so that we strive to become a developed society. And when it comes to science and the scientists and women scientists, yes, we consider that they lead because through science they lead, and science helps everyone us towards leading the society. So it is quite obvious and well accepted that yes, such group of women scientists and other who associate with them can really bring this disparity, if at all, to minimum. So I look at it that this forum can probably would be seeing these issues that I could think of. That in general we talk about science to society, and this issue of disparity, to whatever level it still exists, is how society has been benefited by science. The initial hunter, mindset that women would be at home and that men would go hunting for jobs and earning is no longer valid. Well, it's an old cliche now. The point is that how excellence strives in the society when it comes to women in the society. And they say once women are educated and are in science, they definitely change the society. So this connection of science to society has to be maintained, and more so by presence of women all over. So now, if we analyze uh, whether it is excellence or reach, few excellent women became individuals of excellence, and then somewhere wherever they participate, they they influence, they create centers of excellence. So the society expects reach. So it's not just few pockets of excellence or few centers of excellence or few individuals of excellence. With this introductory thoughts that I had, probably would help everyone, or they might have already thought on these issues, is that on one hand we may consider excellence reaching its peaks, the reach remains an issue. And if it is reach, it is not just in some societies. In some societies, this might have been no disparity, equal participation. In some societies, it may be going on. So, all these issues on whether the society is developed, developing, or underdeveloped also need to be considered. And we might say science leads uh, towards such, minimization or elimination of disparities. We need to see how other disciplines, if you see KBC, you will find successively 3 women reaching at the top, becoming crorepati's. So it shows that yes, it's not just science. Probably we'll have to see that every other discipline, maintains that equality, or other, no disparity. And also another issue that comes is many times whistleblowers or activists, or as an initiative, sometimes we feel there should be, participation, that number of seats, etc., must be certain factors, say 1/3, or equal. Yeah, so I would see that probably we could consider whether it is presence or just participation. Maybe initially participation and then presence. While when we say presence, it means equal presence, natural presence. And yes, as initiatives, we could consider participation. So I have just thrown these things, these points that I thought on this floor, uh, disregarding that there are already great women already, ready. I know Dr. Ranjana and other scientists, women scientists of this region, some of them from CSIU and other from INYAS forum in other neighboring institutions. So this region I have seen in various activities of INYAS and CSIU, and some joint activities have been putting forward, bringing forward such 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 presence, if I say, without much disparity to all society, largely of course visible to us through scientific forums, but I believe uh, the same exists in other forums, particularly this region and Chandigarh, which is more considered as city of educational institutions and research institutions, has a lot of balanced progress. And also I would consider that it is, yes, this set of young women who actually were in their education about a decade or more number of years have brought this change. However, this is not end of it. More young women, younger than you, are already waiting. Not just waiting, they have already reached certain levels. And they would be adding to these numbers, changing the statistics from what we have today to a great equality. Next, have surpassed all expectations, or at least since I had this opportunity, is traveling, so he's unable to join this interesting program. So it became my opportunity of sharing my views on this gender issue, particularly, Indian Young Academy of Sciences, the Indian National Young Academy has joined hand with CSIO, and CSIO as a research and science organization has been has been participating and actively working on these issues. So with these initial remarks, I welcome and CSIO and INYAS, this duo has been doing actively, and I hope this action initiative seminar, where young women share their experiences, inspired and influenced. So thank you organizers for such a great initiative, and we all look forward to hearing and more of country. So thank you very much. Forward to hearing from Professor Ranjana and others.
Thank you very much, sir, for initial remarks. I now invite Dr. Chandrasekhar Sharma, Chair, Indian National Young Academy of Science, to put forward introductory remarks and welcome all the participants.
Thank you, Pooja. So first of all, let me congratulate Dr. Pooja for conceptualizing and initiating this webinar series. She inspires jointly with CSIO Chandigarh. As Dr. Pooja just now briefed about the objectives of this 3 days webinar series, in which we shall have a total of 8 young women scientists who are already doing excellent research in their respective areas and will be sharing their own journey with girls students participants. I'm sure that this will be really inspiring stories for all of us, not just only for the girls students. I also thank Dr. Ranjana Agrawal, Director, CSIR, National Institute of Science, Technology and Development Studies, for her time and addressing the participants as a keynote speaker. Being a women scientist herself and then to the leadership role is something which in itself is inspiring, and she is a perfect person to be the keynote speaker for the opening session of this webinar series. As far as INYAS is concerned, just for the information for the participants, Indian National Young Academy of Sciences, INYAS, is only recognized Young Academy of India, which was founded by INSA in 2014. INYAS works very actively for the science promotion among the young researchers, among the various objectives. We are proud to have very encouraging participation of women scientists as our members. In fact, we have 23 women members out of total 80, and that's something really a positive changing sign for Indian science. With the current focus on increasing the participation of uh, girls students towards science and technology through various programs like Vigyan Jyoti, Kiran, and now recently started SERB Power. I'm very positive that in near future, girls will be competing equally in all areas of science and technology. It has already been proven across the globe that if given an equal opportunity, girls perform equally better than boys in science. So as a Young Scientist Academy, our aim is to make them aware about the opportunities and to train them further to empower them. This has to be done at all the levels, from primary education to the graduate studies and to the office workplace. If we have to achieve the vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat, we cannot do it without equal as well as active participation of half of our population. As a chair of INYAS, I assure all possible support and encouragement for any such programs in future also, with my firm belief that efforts seeded today will be fruitful for a better tomorrow. I again congratulate all the girls student participants who are attending this webinar series and request them to make these sessions more and more interactive. Feel free to ask the questions. I also request Dr. Pooja and other resource persons from INYAS as well as CSIO Chandigarh to develop some mechanism to remain in contact with these students even after the workshop is over for their mentoring as and when needed. With this, I wish all of you a very interactive and inspiring sessions in the next 3 days. Thank you, Pooja. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Chandra. Now, without not taking much of time, I take this opportunity to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Ranjana Agarwal, Director NISTEDS. Dr. Ranjana has done MSc in Chemistry from Kurukshetra University and PhD from Cambridge University, UK. Her research areas includes organic and bioorganic chemistry. The field of specialization is design and synthesis of therapeutic interest as anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, and phytodynamic agents. Development of greener routes for synthesis of organic compounds. She is also a recipient of several awards in recognition to her credit, including Dr. Vasudev Banerjee Memorial Award for the year 2014 by Indian Chemical Society, Dr. Professor S.S. Katiyar Endowment Award by Indian Science Congress, Kolkata in 2015, Commonwealth Fellowship in Dr. J.B. Spencer Groups at Cambridge University. Besides chemistry, she is actively engaged in promotion of science of India, Science for India, among school and college students, gender sensitization, and skill development among girls and rural women. So with this brief introduction, I now invite you, ma'am, to deliver today's session. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Pooja, for the nice words of introduction. So first of all, I would like to thank Dr. H.K. Sardana, Chief Scientist, CSIO, Dr. Chandrasekhar, Chair, Indian Chemical Society, Rohit, who is coordinating this session, and other speakers of this session, and the young participants who are participating in this event, She Inspires. So first of all, I would like to congratulate the team INYAS for taking this initiative to organize a 3-day webinar series on a very interesting topic, which is need of the hour, that is participation of women in STEM. So before I go to STEM and we talk about participation or active participation of women there, so sometimes, I believe that we must talk about the sensitivity. Do we take this issue seriously? And sometimes being women, we understand, like, because I am a woman, so I am having a gender perspective. So it's very important to understand the gender perspective first. I tell you, like, from my story, when I joined, sciences or as a faculty, I always believe science is neutral. So what to talk about gender? Because in science, we always talk of, the principles or the fundamentals which are universal. which do not change. So sometimes we become insensitive towards gender perspective. But when we look at the social sciences, in social sciences, you try to understand that women and men are having different kind of problem, and that those kind of problems also exist in science also. So therefore, we must think of gender issues in STEM education also. I would like to share some slides. Can I share? I
Yes,
would
ma'am.
like to, yeah.
At the bottom, you have a share screen option. You can use that.
Yeah, I'm trying. Actually, I'm not used to Zoom. I just use, excuse me, share screen. Uh, from screen, can I go to,
Select window, ma'am. You have to open your presentation first.
just a minute. Can you see my screen now?
No, not yet.
Um,
You have to first open your presentation, ma'am, then share screen and select window.
yeah, I have opened the slide, open the slides, and then I have to go.
To zoom, and at the bottom there is a share screen option.
Yeah. Okay, I think I will manage without slides. No issue at
Okay.
all. No
Okay,
no
ma'am.
issue at all. Yeah.
Fine.
Is so I think let's make it a more conversation rather than the PowerPoint presentation kind of thing. So the first question, what is women empowerment? This is the question where many people ask, like, what do you say about women empowerment? So I would like to share with you a very small story. There was a king known as Harshvardhan, and he had a battle with the neighboring country, and he lost the battle. uh, the king of that country, the kingdom, gave the life punishment to Harshvardhan. But at the time of punishment, he realized that Harshvardhan is very young, and he gave him a chance that if you answer one question, I will give you your kingdom back, and I will and you can again rule your kingdom. So he said, you will have to answer one question, and the question is, what does a woman want? And he gives him 6 months period to come with an answer that what does a woman really want. So he comes to his kingdom and starts searching for the answer, like what does a woman want. So he has one friend known Siddharaj. He goes from one person to another person seeking the answer, but he himself was not satisfied with that answer, like what does a real woman want. So then the Siddharaj suggests him that there is a witch which lives outside the city. She is very intelligent, but the only thing is her fee is very high. She charges a lot for the consultation. So, but anyway, because the time is passing by and you have to give the answer to the king. So let's go and take his advice that what does a woman really want. So they go there. The witch is really, as the stereotyping is there, she is like very bad looking, ugly, and old, crooked nose, etc., etc. So they tell her, like, this is the question which the king has asked, and if I don't reply, I will be given the life punishment. The the witch says that I have very high fee, as you have been told, but this time my fee is, I would like to marry your friend Siddharaj. The king was in a fix because his friend was very handsome, young, and how can he commit that kind of marriage to the witch? So he says, no, I am happy without answer, and I'm happy to have life punishment. But the Siddharaj says, you as a king has more responsibilities to serve to the kingdom, so I don't marry her, but you should get the answer. So the witch says, uh, a woman wants to be in charge of her own life, because the other answers which Harshvardhan was getting, that women want uh, wealth, house, husband, children, all these kind of things. So he was not happy with those answers. But when he gets this answer that women wants to be in charge of her own life, he feels very happy about it, and he goes to the king. He gives the answer, and he was given, the kingdom back. And so, as admitted, Siddharaj marries the witch. Goes to meet his wife at night. He saw a very beautiful woman sitting. So he gets confused. Like, I married a woman who was witch, who was bad looking, an old woman, and how come a beautiful woman is sitting in my room? So the witch says, "Don't worry, I am the same woman. I have a curse that in the daytime I am witch, and in the night time I'm a beautiful woman. You are my husband now, so now it is your choice. What do you want? You want me beautiful in the daytime, or you want me beautiful in the night? Because half the time I have to be in the witch form." So, Siddharaj, without thinking for a while, he says, "I have married you. Now it is your choice, whatever you decide. You want to be beautiful in the day or night. I don't have anything to decide in that." When he says that, the witch says, "Because you gave me the choice to choose, so I will be beautiful for 24 hours." So, this is what a women want. When we start deciding whether a woman should study science or not, whether a woman should have the stereotyping role or not, I think the problem comes there when we start deciding the roles for women, when we start stereotyping the issues, when we start saying women has these kind of roles to perform, and if she's not doing those roles, so she is failing in her duties. So I think if we want a real empowerment, let our girls have a chance to decide for themselves, like what do they want to do. Give them that, and they will become empowered themselves. So the talking of gender empowerment means uh, we talk about it's not only women issues, because the moment we start about gender issues, women empowerment, the whole discourse starts towards men versus women. But we as a society, men and women are equal. And I would like to quote the quote of Swami Vivekanand, where he says, "There is no chance for the welfare of the world unless the condition of women is improved. It is not possible for a bird to fly on only one wing." So I think instead of men versus women, it should be she is equal to he. We are complementary to each other, because I cannot think of a world where, being a woman, I don't have a father figure, a brother figure, or a husband figure, a son figure, or my friends who are male, and vice versa. No men would like to have a world filled of only men. They also need, women figures in their life. So if we are having she is equal to he, I think that whole perspective does not need any more debate about the women equality or women empowerment. Particularly talking about our Indian concepts, because when we think at the West, always it comes to our mind that this women empowerment is a concept which has been taken from the West, and India has always been a very orthodox closed society which did not give women chance to read, to come into the social platforms, to display their knowledge, their wisdom in public. But we forget that from the very Vedic period, if we go to a very, very, a back journey, we take a back journey, we will find that in Vedic periods, women were not equal to men. Rather, they were placed at a much higher pedestal than men. Uh, we look at our Vedas. Rig Veda is the oldest Veda, and in Rig Veda, it was not only one rishi or one person who has written down those Vedas. This was done by a number of scholars, and there were more than 21 female scholars. They were called as rishikas. So they contributed, like Gargi, Maitri, Lopamudra. Even you will find scientists there. For example, Leelavati, she is daughter of Bhaskaracharya. So she was a good mathematician. The period which we look where the women started, being downgraded is the Manu Smriti, as people believe it. But even in Manu Smriti, you will find it's fine, like they started putting codes. And when you start putting codes, that means you are trying to put some rules and regulations that how people should behave. And that is basically like trying to create stereotyping. Like in Manu Smriti, they said like women should always be dependent upon someone in childhood, father, when she grows on brother, when she marries husband, and when she is old on her son. So these kind of coding is there in Manu Smriti, but even in Manu Smriti, it has never been mentioned that the women has a lesser role to play. If you look at Manu Smriti's 3.56 hymn, it says yatra naryaste pujyantu ramante tatra devta yatre tastu na pujyante sarvastra phala kriya. There also they say that where women are honored, only their gods rejoice. And where, on the other hand, they are not honored, their all rights are fruitless. So that means India always have a strong place for women. But over the period, if we look at the invasion period, whether they were social invasions or the military invasions, you look at the Mughal period and all those periods, that was the period when we Indians started putting our women behind the doors, and it was because of their safety. Because whenever the invasions are there and there are victories or wars, women is the most easiest and the best reward to give to. So at that time we started putting our women behind the doors. And if you look at across the whole geography of India, most of the invasions occurred from northwest, and therefore you will find that their women are more like having parda, ghungat, lesser access to education. But if you go to south where there were lesser invasions, you will not find women covering their head or having ghungat. But if you go to north, particularly हरियाणा, पंजाब, जयपुर, आप सब देखेंगे कि औरतें घूंघट निकालती हैं, सिर पे कपड़ा ढकती हैं. So this invasion basically played a very deterrent role of the women participation in the society. But I think pre and post independence period was a period where renaissance occurred, because it was realized at that time that people who were involved in freedom struggle, they also realized that if women are not participating in the freedom struggle, it's not going to happen. And therefore many reformers, our thinkers, Swami Vivekanand, Swami Dayanand, Raja Ram Mohan Rai, Bhagini Nivedita, and many more, Savitribai Phule, Jyotiba Phule. So all those people realize that education for women is very important. And from if you look at late 1800s, women in a way started coming to a social platform. And after independence, we are taking a big leap, particularly in case of education. So it shows us like a very rosy picture has come, but we women who are in the higher education, who are working, who are professionals, have got the opportunity. Even at the leadership position, sometimes we have this kind of complacency, like everything is going good and there are enough number, why to worry about it. But if you go, just scratch the layer and you see what's happening, you will find that there is gender inequality. And this gender inequality is so intricate, it's very difficult to define it. What to talk of STEM? If I have to talk of mortality, even there inequality is there. Natality, right to take birth, there is inequality. We know all this feticide happening in our country. Basic facility inequality. You go to a simple example, public toilets. Are there enough public toilets where women can go? Because women have special needs. You look at the schools, the girls who reach at the age of puberty, and there are not enough toilets. Those girls drops out from the school because the basic facilities are not there. Special opportunity inequality is also there. Being a daughter and being a son, parents would like to spend more on, son's education as compared to women education. Professional inequality is there. Being having the same kind of professional qualifications, the chances are not equal. Sometimes we say because it is because of merit, because not enough meritorious women are there, that's why this inequality is there. But I tell you, this is again a gender bias, and I would like to quote one small case study. In New York, there is one group, Philharmonic Orchestra group. Their presence of women was uh, 0 to 10% for many decades. So it was always believed that men are better, musicians, so they get placed in orchestra, and women are less qualified or less meritorious. That's why their presence is less. But late 80s, to choose for the auditions, they created a new system. They put a opaque glass wall where while taking auditions, the judges could not see whether the person playing orchestra was men or women. Will you believe it? After that, 58% women were part of the orchestra. So once you remove that gender biasness, when you don't know whether this is male or female, the merit is not an issue. Merit we create. It is a created issue that women are less meritorious. That's why they are not given the equal chance. And particularly in STEM, we talk of, research publications, research citations, and all these kind of things, which are good. But again, in those, when we talk of publications and citations, again, there is a system which works, which prefers male over female. Uh, Female do not have that kind of networking, but men, on the other hand, that kind of networking. So the professional inequality is always there. So these are some of the inequalities which we face, and which leads to, at the larger level, gives a bigger picture to gender inequality. Uh, and when we talk of gender equality in STEM areas, uh, science, technology, engineering, in maths, these are particularly the areas where we need to give more and more focus. Uh, in United Kingdom, a study was undertaken in 1960s that was draw a scientist studies. This was a meta-analysis competition. Will you believe only 1% of the class draw a women as a scientist? Nobody could perceive that a woman can be scientist, but this number has changed to 28% at the moment. So this number is still not enough to give the fair representation of women in the STEM education. I would like to share with you some data which says that women, there are, we talk of, there are in bachelor's degree, there are 18% 18% women, 8% women, and 2% women, as compared to 37% male, 18% male, and 6% male in bachelor, master's, and doctoral degree in science. So that means the girls are not getting enough chance to study science. I'm glad to share with you that in India, we are at number 1, where girls and women are taking science as the for their career and for their studies. But when we talk of the global index, the India's place in gender gap index is 112th. So that means women who are coming to science, but they are studying science at some point of level, but then we start losing them. So that means that we need to introspect why we are losing women from STEM education. And this is being done systematically. We are tracking away the girls and women from science and maths systematically, uh, starting from their school education. From school education, even parents start instilling this kind of anxiety in girls' mind that science and mathematics is particularly not your domain. So girls, though they are performing well, but they are not confident enough to take science and maths in the higher education. Secondly, science STEM education has been considered as male dominated because you have inflexible hours, the studies are exclusionary, and the work culture is not comfortable. Uh, Another thing which is deterrent for participation of women in STEM is fewer role models. Uh, if we look at the Nobel prizes, there are more than 800 Nobel prizes, and only 60 women have received this prize. And out of this 60 also, 60% is for literature and peace. Only 40% out of that 60, only 40% in science and in STEM. So that shows the gender bias, that women are considered like this science and mathematics engineering is not their domain. So science and they are happy with literature and peace kind of prizes. So that means we need more role models. Again, I would like to quote one example which is very starking example. We all know about the DNA double helix model. We talk of Watson and Crick model, but we forget that in the double helix model was basically proposed by Rosalind Franklin, who was working at King's College London. She was an X-ray crystallography. She has given very good structures of coal and graphites and viruses. So she was also working with the DNA molecule, and she was working on X-ray studies. She supplied those X-rays to Watson and Crick at Cambridge University, and later on they gave the double helix structure. But now today, if you ask anybody about DNA structure, everybody talks about Watson and Crick. Nobody says Rosalind Franklin. So it is very important that in our textbooks we increase the role models of women. Similarly, I believe like there will be so many women who must have participated in our freedom fights or in the social reformation, but they are not in our school books, so that the girls get inspiration from them. Also, there is male resistance to women in top positions. And if you talk more about women, so there is always a pipeline theory explanation that when the women will go, they are like at the lower rung, with the time they will get the higher position, which generally does not happen. So some of these factors are our structural factors, so we'll have to change it. But then there are cultural factors also. Uh, this is our stereotyping that the women has to take the child family responsibility. Childbearing is a very natural process. Nature has created men and women very beautifully, because we have to procreate life. So women has to procreate life. It is part of a natural process. And being women, we are blessed that we have this compassion and love, and to have children and to nurture them. But once a child is there, it should not be only women responsibility, and it should not be considered that it's only women who has to take care of that. But our process of socialization, our cultural barriers, lack of support from family, makes it women they make women feel guilty, like if they are going to workplace, because in science, when you are in science, you have to stay in the labs for longer period, leaving your family responsibilities for a longer period. So the family does not support that kind of thing. The other thing is, when we are working in lab environment, you have to stay longer periods, and you come in contact with your male partners. So if they are not welcoming, they give you chilly climate, you don't feel comfortable, there is time conflict. Women opt to drop from the profession of science and technology, even if they have studied it. They want to quit, they want to take jobs of like intellectual property rights का कुछ कर लेते हैं, छोटा कोर्स तो हमको कुछ मिल जाएगा, कुछ मैनेजमेंट कर लेते हैं. Even they are good at science, but they choose to do management kind of thing, or softer jobs where they have to not stay in the labs for a longer period. And then lack of mobility is another factor which hinders women participation in STEM. After the marriage, they have to change, many times they have to change their place, because their husbands, their in-laws are situated in a different city. Given a circumstance, do you think a man will change his job or quit his job to accommodate women? It generally doesn't happen. Even if you look at our this selection processes, sometimes when a young woman appears for the interview, the selection committee asks, okay, if given a chance, will you marry after a couple of years? What will be your what will happen then? Will you change or not change? I would like to cite my own story with you. When I did my BSc, and then after MSc, I wanted to do PhD. Uh, and I wanted to do PhD with the, particular professor. So when I went to him and I said, like, sir, I want to carry out my research with you. तो उनका पहला चीज जो उन्होंने मुझे बोला कि मैंने आज तक कभी किसी लड़की को पीएचडी नहीं कराया है, क्योंकि लड़कियों को पीएचडी कराने में बड़ा दिक्कत है, शादी वादी हो जाती है उनकी, फिर वो पीएचडी छोड़ देते हैं, फिर बच्चे हैं और वो सब चीजें. बट दैट टाइम आई वाज सो मोटिवेटेड, आई वाज 21, 22. तो मुझको लगा कि मुझको शादी वादी करना नहीं है, तो मेरे को तो पीएचडी ही करना है. तो दैट टाइम मोटिवेशन वाज at a very different level. So but even then my supervisor said कि अपने पापा से बात कराओ मेरी. So my father went there, और मैंने अपने फादर को बोला कि आपने कुछ भी ना नहीं कहना है, आपने यही बोलना है कि शादी नहीं होगी, आप पीएचडी कराना है. So my father went there, he committed कि शादी नहीं होगी, पीएचडी होगी पहले, और उसके बाद ही शादी करेंगे. But it's very difficult in our society, particularly I'm talking of now 30 years back, more than 30 years back, in early 1990s, late 89s. And in my community particularly, I come from a business community. So the whole family pressure was there कि लड़की को क्या बूढ़ा करके शादी करोगे, अभी तक इसकी शादी नहीं कर रहे हो. So these kind of things were going on. But then my present husband, who was that time in the physics department, he was a lecturer there. So then my father thought like ये तो आमने सामने डिपार्टमेंट का काम है, थीसिस तो हो ही जाएगा, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, तो शादी कर लेते हैं. But my supervisor was truly annoyed inside. But he agreed कि ठीक है, यहीं पे शादी हो जाएगा तो काम करेगी ये लड़की. But by chance, my husband got Commonwealth Fellowship and he has to go to Cambridge. My supervisor was so annoyed with me कि मैंने पहली लड़की को लिया है और वही धोखा हो गया मेरे साथ. But you will not believe, I stayed there. Even I had a baby during my PhD. Young girls, just to tell them, like, if I achieve this position today, I'm at the leadership position, that does not mean that I always had a very smooth ride. I also had a bumpy journey, where at points I thought I may have to quit my PhD, or I will have to quit my responsibilities as mother, as wife. So lots of conflicts were there, but then my family was there to support me. My supervisor then realized, like, having all these things, she's committed. So today he appreciates me so much, and that time also he helped me so much in my thesis and everything. But initial barriers were there, so we women have to create a kind of environment, a kind of ecosystem for us, where people start taking us seriously. uh, so mobility is there, but we have to ensure that how do we move forward. So personal factors, therefore I say that we women, young girls particularly, should not have limited career aspirations. हम लोग भी कई बार क्या सोचने लगते हैं, अच्छा अब शादी हो गया, अब सेटल हो जाते हैं, अब क्या प्रॉब्लम है, अगर साइंटिस्ट का जॉब नहीं मिल रहा, स्कूल में स्कूल टीचर का ही जॉब मिल रहा है, तो क्या बुराई है, कम से कम इकट्ठे रह रहे हैं. दूसरी चीज क्या होती है, अपने बारे में we have low self esteem, weak self concepts. Reason being, because we have been left out from the mainstream, because child bearing time जो है वो 4-5 years का हो जाता है. कितना भी करने से आपका जो जर्नी है वो थोड़ा स्लो होता है. At that time, sometimes you start feeling that the people who were with you or who were junior to you are now doing well. Basically, होता क्या, उन्होंने 5-6 पेपर्स आपसे ज्यादा छाप लिए होंगे, एक आध पोस्ट डॉक ज्यादा कर लिया होगा आपसे, तो हमको लगने लगता है कि आई एम नॉट दैट कॉम्पिटेंट. I start feeling intimidated by my male competitors. So don't let that feeling seep in. That is the period. Just think positive. You have not wasted those years. In those years you have basically learned many other skills which are much more important to be a good human being, and they will make you a better scientist, they will make you a better leader, because you now understand the world not only from scientifically angle but also from the social science aspect. You understand that. The another thing where we women should work on, that is conflicts between affiliation and power. As women, we have never been taught to be powerful. Even when we are at home, as a little girl, we are not asked for our choices. What do you want? ऐसा बहुत कम होता है. Even खाना भी जब बनता है हमारे घरों में, तो जनरली पापा क्या खाएंगे, ये बचपन से हम देखते हैं कि मम्मी हमेशा फादर की पसंद का खाना बनाना चाहेगी, या भाई से पूछा जाएगा क्या खाना बनाना चाहेगी. तो ये मुझे लगता है जो ये हमारा जो ब्रिंगिंग अप है, जो सोशल सेटअप है, from the very beginning women are the girls are trained to be submissive, so they are not trained to handle the power. So therefore at the leadership positions we are not comfortable, we want to surrender. हमको लगता है second position अच्छा है, हमको रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी भी कम मिलेगा उस पे काम करने को, और मुझको ये सब तरह के झंझट से छुटकारा है. So we ourselves are also not happy to take, or not trained, or not skilled to take leadership position. So therefore I will say we have to work on 3 levels. One is the structural, one is social, the third one is personal. And the personal, you can start working from the very straight, from the straight now onwards, and try to delegate things. सुपर विमेन बनने का हमको बहुत जरूरत नहीं होता. समटाइम्स आई वांट टू बी द बेस्ट मदर, बेस्ट वाइफ, बेस्ट डॉटर इन लॉ, बेस्ट डॉटर, best scientist, best leader. Why do I do all these things? So just draw lines for yourself. What do you want to be? Start delegating things to others. For example, being mother, And particularly when we are living in India, I tell you, we are so fortunate. I have always felt it that we have families to support. But sometimes we have that kind of stereotype कि सास जो है, mother-in-law is not a good figure to be trusted upon, to leave children with them, to have with them. But sometimes I have discussion with my friends and the young colleagues. I have my daughter also. I just tell her, as mother, you are ready to leave your child to a creche, you are ready to leave your child to a babysitter who must be having a low education or IQ or whatever, but you are not ready to share it with your mother-in-law or mother. मदर पे तो फिर भी विश्वास करती हैं हम लड़कियां, लेकिन मदर इन लॉ पे हमको लगता है नहीं, छोड़ा, ऐसा नहीं है. बट समटाइम्स आई जस्ट से टू देम, योर हस्बैंड हैज बीन ब्रॉट अप बाय दैट लेडी. ये जो सोशल कंस्ट्रक्ट हमने खड़े किए हैं, विमेन को विमेन के अगेंस्ट जो हमने खड़ा किया है, ये हम विमेन को, पर्टिकुलरली मैं कह रही हूँ कि जो हम वर्किंग विमेन हैं, जो हायर एजुकेशन में है, जो स्टेम एजुकेशन में है, जो सीनियर लीडरशिप पोजीशन में आ रहे हैं, we must take the support of our family, which is only in India. You will not find it anywhere. So start delegating duty. It's not important to cook all the 3 meals yourself. You can cook once in a while, cook a very good meal, and that day they will also relish कि आज मम्मी ने खाना बनाया या आज वाइफ ने स्पेशल खाना मेरे लिए बनाया. If you are cooking 3 meals a day every day, nobody is going to respect that. So what I just want, I'm not saying कि आज से खाना बनाना बंद कर दे. The only thing I want to say is we must start delegating some of our responsibilities to others, and in that way we will be having more time to give to our profession. And in profession, I will say again, there is no need to demarcate men versus men. We have to work in collaboration. So make good networking. Networking is very important, particularly in science, engineering, technology, and maths, because this area is moving very fast. The technology you are using today, after 2 years, it may not be there. So therefore, if you have good networking, you learn new skills, you are update with the modern discoveries, and even for the publication, you need good referees. For the citations, how to cite, when to cite, whom to cite. So these kind of things, we must keep on updating our skills so that we are not lagged behind. So to bridge the gender gap, awareness is very, very important. We must have more and more women, more role models. Our courses, our environment in STEM education should be such which is welcoming to women. And another thing which promotions, where the promotions are required, sometimes women feel discrimination there. Sexual harassment is another issue which discourages women to be professional or to participate. There are less mentorship opportunity, less sponsorship opportunity, and working in silos is happening. So we have to work on them. So Government of India has also made many schemes. Dr. Chandrasekhar talked about them. DST has many schemes. Kiran, Women Scientist Scheme, Women Scientist ABC, and then Vigyan Jyoti program. SARB has Women Excellence Awards. Department of Biotechnology has many schemes, BioCare, National Bioscientist Award, and so on. UGC again having many women friendly schemes. So we should look into them. And the most importantly, which I think I was talking about, creating role models. I'm very happy that this year on 29th February, on the National Science Day, though it was the National Science Day, but it was the theme was Women in Science, and 11 chairs in the name of eminent women scientists in the field of science technology was created. So I think these 11 chairs by Ministry of Human Resource Development will motivate our young girls. They have their role models now in the, in every field. The interesting thing is, be it biology, be it chemistry, be it mathematician, physics, medicine, meteorology, engineering. So these 11 women, I think, are now going to be our role models. Uh, uh, and we have to break the stereotyping. uh, uh, this is very, very important. Not look at the professions which are tagged as women professions. For example, biology may you will find more women, physics you will find less women, mathematics you will find less women, uh, nursing you will find more women, but in other, if it is doctor, you will find lesser women. So we'll look at the roles which are not normal stereotype role, and therefore pick some role models which are coming out of, the normal domain. For example, ISRO. I think our Prime Minister also appreciated that, if you remember that day when the Mars mission was successfully launched. And that was the picture to relish, where all the women dressed in Kanjivaram saris. They were not dressed, as engineers having suits, business suits and all kind of things. They were just having the Kanjivaram saris, wearing venis in their hair, and then celebrating the success. So that is breaking stereotype. Another thing which I liked very much about the stereotyping is, in 2017, there was a all women crew which circumvented the whole globe in a very small boat, Tarini. So this was first ever Indian expedition where only women sailors were there. So going into an open sea in a very, very small vessel, they were engineers, they were, scientists, they were doctors, whatever. And when it was asked ki aapka journey kaisa tha being women, and I love the answer which Navika said. Navika was the captain of that whole boat. She said, she does not know that we were women, she was not kinder to us. So she was, as it is with, she is gender neutral. So I am happy that we were women there, but ultimately we successfully covered it because we have the capabilities which a normal human being. So I think we should come out of that whole scenario of men versus men, all that scenario that women are less, that this is only an outcry that women should be given more.
मेरे से न चले बैठ के
that women are asking for presentation because of the number. No, we are not asking for the number. We are asking that there are enough women who are capable, who are having equal potential, but are not given the chance to prove them. So I will stop my talk here, and I would like to have a brief discussion with you. A few of the questions I would like to take from the young girls. And I truly tell you, the journey of every woman itself is a story for others. So I also learn from the young girls when I see them at the moment. 12वीं क्लास की लड़की जब स्कूटर के ऊपर पूरा कॉन्फिडेंस से चलती है तो मुझको बड़ी खुशी होती है कि अब उसको वो जरूरत नहीं कि पापा उसको छोड़ के आएंगे कहीं पे. So I am learning from the young girls, and I'm also learning from the old generation, like how they have nurtured us. So I think in India we have all kind of role models. We don't want to create a revolution जहां पे हम सब चीजों को disrupt करना चाहते हैं. Let's make a fine balance between personal and professional life and excel in our lives. Thank you so very much to everyone for giving me time to speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for such a wonderful and motivating session, and quoting very nice example, even sharing your own journey, how with the bumping ride, all the young uh, female students which they face in their life, from that bumpy ride, you have reached to a leadership role, which is really inspiring for all the participants. There are a few questions which we will take from the participants. The first question is from Vibhuti. Female students in PhD who happen to enter motherhood are literally considered as case and boycotted even by fellow PhD students. So sometimes because of these things they feel guilty. So how to look into this issue?
It was Vibhuti. Vibhuti, the question you have asked, I think it is touching everybody's heart. You know, this is the time when we say childbearing, that is the time when our career is also, we are starting our careers. That's the, point where we have to start our career. And one thing will have to change. Motherhood or being women, one should feel proud of the womanhood. We should not take it and no guilty, nothing like that. This is the responsibility. This is my desire to be mother. And there is no need to feel guilty. I also got scared. Truly speaking, where during my PhD, I also got scared because I got married first of all. वो मैंने एक बड़ा crime किया. और दूसरा crime ये किया कि मैं I was on my I planned a baby also. So that was a crime basically. I also got scared at one point of time. But then, as I said, discuss it with your family, discuss it with your friends, even with your fellow students. What will happen? Instead of 4 years, you will finish your PhD in 5 years, in 6 years. I tell you, मेरे साथ जितने भी लड़के और लड़कियों ने PhD किया है, मुझे मेरे कई फेलो कलीग्स कहते थे कि इतनी लड़कियों को क्यों लेती हो PhD में? लड़कियां उतना कमिटेड, मतलब क्या उन सबका शादी होता है। और तुम मानोगे कि मैं सबसे पहले अपने जो भी लड़की मेरे साथ PhD शुरू करती है, तो मैं उसको सबसे पहले ये कहती हूँ कि जब भी पेरेंट्स शादी के लिए कहें और तुमको कोई अच्छा पार्टनर मिल जाए, शादी कर लेना। ये मेरा सबसे पहला होता है। नेवर से कि शादी नहीं करना। दूसरा, मैं उनको ये कहती हूँ कि आपका फैमिली आपको शुरू करना है, इट शुड बी योर चॉइस। आप कब शुरू करना चाहते हैं? आप ड्यूरिंग PhD करना चाहते हैं, बाद में करना चाहते हैं, इट शुड बी ट्रूली योर चॉइस। सिर्फ एक चीज का ध्यान रखो कि अपने मन में जो PhD या वट एवर यू आर डूइंग, उसको करने की इच्छा जिंदा रखना। बस इतना मुझे आपसे चाहिए। और मैं आपको बताना चाहूंगी, मेरी एक भी फीमेल स्टूडेंट ने ड्रॉप आउट PhD में नहीं किया है। हो सकता है उन्होंने PhD 6 साल में पूरा कर लिया हो, लेकिन मेरे साथ जिन बॉयज ने PhD ज्वाइन किया है, मेरे पास 2 ड्रॉप आउट्स हैं। और शादी के बाद मैंने उनका परफॉर्मेंस नीचे गिरता हुआ देखा है। तो इसलिए कोई चिंता करने की जरूरत नहीं है। Womanhood is a blessing. So just start feeling that. We don't have to become men. We don't have to become masculine. We don't have to acquire those properties, those characteristics. Nature has created us in a very, very specific way, in a very beautiful way. Just love yourself and love the womanhood. That's what I would like to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question is from Meenal Batra. She's asking, please suggest how to manage work and home together, because for women, both are equally important. Sometimes it's difficult to make balance and one side suffer a lot.
Meenal, it's true that we have to play double role. But I think multitasking is our salient feature. We can do multitasking. We have to play both the roles. As I said, first of all, don't burden yourself with all the loads alone. We have to, in our homes, have to create that environment, have to create, self-esteem, self-respect within the family. Like if my husband is working, I am working, we both are having the equal role to play in managing the house, managing the home affairs. Involve your children from the very beginning. Tell them about your successes. Generally क्या है, हम घर में आके अपने काम की बात नहीं करते हैं। जब हस्बैंड घर बाहर से आते हैं, वो अपनी हर सक्सेस स्टोरी को, हर चीज को वो बताते हैं कि रोज में मैंने क्या किया। हम अपने बच्चों को कभी बताते ही नहीं हमने क्या किया। हम आते हैं, आने के बाद खाना बनाते हैं, उनको पढ़ाने में लगते हैं, उनकी बातें सुनते हैं, लेकिन अपने बारे में नहीं बताते कि क्या हुआ। क्या कभी हम अपना जो पेपर पब्लिश करते हो, या आपने कभी कोई नया इन्वेंशन किया है, या आपका कभी कोई अच्छा रिजल्ट आया है, क्या घर जाके उसको सबके साथ शेयर करते हो? जो आपका रिसर्च पेपर है जाके अपने बच्चे को दिखाओ, छोटे बच्चे को, चाहे उसको पेपर समझ में नहीं आता है, जस्ट टेल लाइक इट्स योर मॉम्स नेम, योर मॉम हैज डन सो वेल, पीपल रिकॉग्नाइज योर मॉम. एंड आई टेल यू, वर्किंग वुमेन के जो बच्चे होते हैं ना, दे आर much more understanding, they are more mature. We have to groom them in such a way that they start appreciating you. I just share with you one of my incidents. My son, I generally share with them कि मैंने क्या किया. मेरे रिसर्च स्कॉलर्स भी जब घर में आते हैं तो वो उन बच्चों से जैसे उनका कुछ डिस्कशन होता है. So I just share with you, one day I got, my son was studying at BITS Pilani. एक दिन उसका रात को मेरे पास 12-1 बजे कॉल आता है और वो कॉल करके कहता है, अरे मम्मी आपको पता है क्या आपका रिसर्च गेट स्कोर कितना है? He didn't know anything about it. He was in school, but once he is going for higher education और उसको समझ में आता है लिंक्डइन क्या है, रिसर्च गेट क्या है, आपका गूगल स्कोर, गूगल साइटेशन क्या है, तो मैंने कहा बोला हाँ मुझे पता है क्या है. आपको पता है इतना तो हमारे बहुत कम प्रोफेसर्स का है. सो कि आप इतना अच्छा भी साइंटिस्ट हो, मैं तो सोच रहा था कि आप अच्छा करती हो, ठीक है, यू आर ए गुड प्रोफेसर, मैंने आपके स्टूडेंट से बात किया है. तो मेरा कहना ये है कि हमको ना अपने फैमिली को पर्सनल और प्रोफेशनल में अपने ऊपर 100% लेने की जरूरत नहीं है. आप कभी भी गिल्ट फील मत करो, लीव योर चिल्ड्रन अलोन. आप सोच, मैं अपना बताती हूँ कि अपनी डॉटर को जब मैं पढ़ाती थी तो मुझको लगता था द मोमेंट शी हैज स्टार्टेड एंड द मोमेंट शी विल फिनिश आई शुड बी विद हर ऑल द टाइम. बट देन आई रियलाइज शी डजंट नीड मी सो मच. आई एम जस्ट फोर्सिंग माई सेल्फ ऑन हर. So, being a mother, sometimes we are over possessive. Give your child will be more happy with their peer groups rather than you. But as a mother, मुझको लगता है मेरा बच्चा मेरे अलावा कभी खुशी नहीं रहेगा कहीं पे. तो ये जहां से भी मिलती है उस सपोर्ट को लीजिए आप. And once this is a window of 5 to 7 years which is more critical. Once you pass that window, I think life is going to be comfortable. So play cleverly. Don't feel guilty at any time. अगर बच्चा का 2% मार्क्स कम आ गया कभी, it is not because of you. राइट उसका अगर आईआईटी में एडमिशन नहीं होके आईआईटी में एनआईटी में एडमिशन हो गया, यू आर नॉट रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर दैट. सो स्टॉप होल्डिंग रिस्पॉन्सिबल योरसेल्फ फॉर एवरी स्मॉल थिंग इन द लाइफ. It's not your responsibility. So make a fine balance. As I said, family is equally important for us. Our Indian fabric, social fabric is so interwoven that we love each other. I don't want to disrupt that fabric. I don't want to go to the Western concept, forget everything and just be professional. Be professional, but be compassionate. Make everyone in your family इक्वली. अपने छोटे छोटे बेटे बेटी को तैयार करो ना काम करने के लिए, छोटे छोटे चीजों के लिए. मेरे को एक बड़ा अच्छा कोटेशन ग्लोरिया का याद आता है. वो कहती है कि वी हैव लर्न टू रेज आवर डॉटर्स लाइक सन बट नॉट सन्स लाइक डॉटर्स. तो हम अपनी बेटियों को तो बेटा बेटा कहने लगे हैं, लेकिन बेटों को बेटियां तो नहीं कह रहे हैं ना. सो वो जब माइंडसेट चेंज कर देंगे ना आप, ये हम ही को चेंज करना पड़ेगा कि मैं क्योंकि आपसे एक नेक्स्ट जनरेशन में हूं. आई विल हैव टू थिंक लाइक व्हेन माय डॉटर इन लॉ कम्स, माय हस्बैंड, माय सन शुड प्ले ए मेजर रोल इन होम affairs rather than she doing everything. So we'll have to train our sons from the very beginning that they have equal role to play in the home affairs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for seriously very wonderful suggestions. And all are I'm seeing there on the chat box, the participants, they are feeling so motivated. So we have a lot more many questions. Since we are running out of time, we will pass them to you. So at the end, I'll just convey this thing which you said already. We as a women, as a girl student, need to work on structural, social and personal level, and definitely the good networking. So with these words, thank you very much, ma'am, for your time, for your valuable session. Really inspiring. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pooja, and thank you all for listening me so patiently. Thank you. It was my pleasure. Thanks.
Dr. Ranjana, could you just stay for a minute?
Yeah, sure, sure. I'm here.
I am Mehak Sharma. I'm an associate professor at ISER Mohali, and I just want to take this opportunity to thank you for for what you said. I have never been so inspired. So already, I think what Pooja set out to do, I am one of the person who is deeply inspired by what you said, and I think I share the sentiment of many people who are hearing you.
Thank you so very much, Mehak. Thank you.
You were amazing, you were honest, and it was a pleasure to hear you today. Thank
Thank
you
you so
for
much.
that.
It was total my pleasure. I wish we could have met physically, and we all have stories to tell, we all have stories to share. So I wish you all young women a very, very bright future. I wish you all the best in personal and professional lives. It was my pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Yeah, ma'am. We look forward to have you in person when things get normal.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Bye-bye.
So now I invite Dr. Rohit to take this session further.
Thank you, Dr. Pooja. And although I am a bit misfit here, but I think I will thank Dr. Ranjana Agarwal, because as a son of a working woman and a husband of a working professional, as well as a father of a young daughter, I think I have learned and cherished a lot with her presentation. So thank
And
you, ma'am.
Rohit, you are not misfit. You are totally fit into this discussion. Thank you. Thank you.
But I've learned a lot, and I think I have realized small things. I think, and I hope these things will help us. I think every man should also listen to these things. So
Yeah,
I think
that's very important, because individually, if we keep on talking about women empowerment, it's not going to help.
Yes.
And I always believe men and women, we are two parts of the same coin. So no need to segregate. We are together. So you are totally fit. And thank you so very much. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot. With this, I think it is my privilege to introduce the next speaker. We have Mehak with us, Dr. Mehak from ISER. Mehak got her PhD training under the mentorship of Dr. Steve Kaplan and Dr. Nava Neslavsky at the University of Nebraska Medical Center, Omaha, USA, where she worked on the mechanisms regulating receptor endocytosis and recycling back to the cell surface. She then did her postdoctoral fellowship with Dr. Michael Brenner at the Brigham and Women's Hospital, Harvard Medical School, Boston, USA, studying transport of lipid antigen presenting receptors in immune cells. In 2011, Mehak moved back to India to set up her independent laboratory at the Indian Institute of Science, Education and Research, ISER Mohali. Then there she is currently working as an associate professor and Wellcome Trust UK DBT India Alliance Senior Fellow in the Department of Biological Sciences. Her research interests are focused on studying the molecular mechanisms regulating membrane trafficking towards lysosomes and lysosome positionings, as well as how intracellular pathogens manipulate the host endolysosomal pathway for their growth and survival. With this, I welcome Dr. Mehak to please kindly take over and start her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Rohit, for such a kind introduction. And as I was saying that, I'm deeply inspired by what Dr. Ranjana said. Couldn't have said it better myself. So the way that I have organized this talk, and based on my own experience, which has not been for many years in academia, I thought that I would first talk to you about what we are doing in the lab. So I will use this forum to tell you about our science and probably try to wrap this up in the next 20 minutes. And then I will also, talk to you about my journey in science, and also then hint upon many things that, Dr. Agarwal touched in her lecture, and probably end with a wish list for a woman who aspire to be scientist. So I'm going to share my slides now. Hopefully it will work. Please let me know if you can see the slides.
Yes, they're visible.
Okay. So as Rohit was mentioning that, my lab is studying the mechanisms by which membrane transport happens in our cells, in the eukaryotic cells. And I want to begin my lecture by showing you an image, a map of a very crowded city. And I understand that in these times of social distancing, the last thing that you want to see is a crowded city. But I think what we fail to realize is that, uh, you know, uh, the city that I'm showing you, Delhi, it's very crowded, but there is actually 50 times more proteins in our cells. So our cells are actually much more crowded in numbers than the population density that is there in a city like Delhi. And like the city, like the population in a city, the proteins that are present in our cells are also organized, in compartments at a subcellular level, and they are present, they reside on different subcellular organelles that is beautifully illustrated in the schematic. So you can see this, highly reticulate pattern of the endoplasmic reticulum, which you have probably, seen in your molecular biology textbooks. Organelles like mitochondria, the highly localized organelle like Golgi complex. Now, obviously, like the transport system in a city, these organelles are also in constant communication with each other because proteins have to move from one compartment to another compartment. And you have probably, some of you have probably seen an image of these transport pathways when you were studying, when you were studying cell biology, that proteins are generally synthesized in an organelle called as endoplasmic reticulum, and it moves from this compartment to Golgi and then to cell surface. We can call this as the forward pathway. Okay, so this is the typical forward pathway in the cell, also labeled as the secretory route. There is another major trafficking highway in our cell, which starts from the plasma membrane, and cargo which is present outside the cell is taken up by the cell, and it again traffics through various subcellular compartments shown here in green, and we call this as the endocytic route. Okay, endocytosis, the word means endo, internal, cytosis, or cytic means in the cell, so internalized by the cell. And once the cargo comes in the cell, it can then move to an organelle called as lysosomes, which are also the favorite organelle in my lab, and we are studying this in depth. And this is the degradation center of the cell. So material comes into this compartment to get degraded, and then it moves out of lysosomes to actually then start the process of synthesis of new molecules. So for instance, a protein would come into lysosomes and it would get degraded into its subcellular components, amino acids, and then these building blocks will be used for new synthesis of the protein. And uh, cargo, which is internalized by the cell surface, also moves back to the plasma membrane for another round of this uptake, for instance, receptors. So we are primarily interested in studying this protein trafficking process in the endocytic pathway. And this is the question that keeps us awake at night, that how does cellular cargo reaches to their functional location? And this is a very, very important question as highlighted in this particular slide, where we know of many human genetic disorders that happen because of disruption of proteins that regulate this transport pathway. So on the left-hand side of this slide, you can see there are names of different proteins, and their mutations result in, human genetic disorders. So for instance, maybe you've heard of the disease Parkinson's, which is a neurodegenerative disorders, and onset of Parkinson disease happens due to several other reasons, but one of the major components is disruption in the proteins that regulate the intracellular transport. So we already know of many diseases that happen because of mutations in these very, very important protein. So coming now to the question that how does the transport happens in the cell, and this happens via the formation of vesicles. So a membrane will fold on itself as shown here, form a vesicle and then fuse with the donor compartment. Now, as with many other cellular processes, this process also involves large number of proteins. So I want to show you a detailed schematic of this vesicular transport process. There are proteins in our cell which are shown here in this slide in the green color, which will actually help in bending of a membrane. So you have a, let's say this could be the plasma membrane. Proteins help in bending of the membrane and form a vesicle. Once a vesicle is formed, it actually has to move towards its target compartment, which is, let's say, residing here. So this movement is also happening with the help of proteins like the protein shown here in red and this associated protein. And the vesicle is actually moving on a track, on a road kind of a thing, which is present in our cells, which are, let's say, called as microtubules. So the vesicle moves on these tracks. It reaches in the proximity of the donor compartment. And then again, proteins such as this, this snake or coiled, like a large protein shown here, it helps in capturing the vesicle. So this is, it is almost capturing the vesicle, bringing it in proximity of the target compartment, and then ultimately fusion of the vesicle happens and the cargo is delivered from one compartment to another compartment. So it's an exquisite orchestra of, sequence of events which is happening here, which allows the cell to transport proteins and lipids from one membrane to another membrane. And one can actually spend a lifetime studying individual steps of this pathway in depth. Currently, my lab is focusing on one of the steps of this pathway, which is that capturing of this vesicle by proteins, which in scientific terms we call them as tethering factors or bridging factors, because they're bridging two membranes and the process of vesicle fusion. So I just thought that I'll share with you a small movie, of seeing these vesicles in motion. So what you are seeing here is these subcellular compartments, endosomes and lysosomes, which are labeled in two different colors, green and red. And you will see that there is a lot of movement in this one mammalian cell of vesicles. There are vesicles which are tethered to each other, and some of the vesicles will undergo complete fusion. And there you may see appearance of the yellow color because the green and red have merged in one compartment. So I just thought that, I'll share with you how this process looks like under a fluorescent microscope. So you can see that there is a lot of movement of these vesicles. Here are these two vesicles which are kind of tethered to each other. They will undergo transient fusion. You see appearance of a vesicle here, and it will kind of, move out. So let me just play it one more time so that you can appreciate the motility as well as the tethering and the fusion of these vesicles. And this process, as I was mentioning, that vesicles coming together and fusing is very, very important for delivery of proteins and lipids to their right functional location. And if it does not happen, it can result in, one of the several human genetic disorders that I was mentioning to you before. So as I was telling you that we are focusing on these bridging factors, and they are, again, our cells are decorated with these protein complexes that serve as bridging factors. My lab in particular is studying a bridging factor which is important for the endocytic pathway, which is called as Hobbs complex. So that is our favorite, protein to study. This particular protein complex was discovered in yeast, Saccharomyces cerevisiae, and it is conserved from yeast to mammals. And this is not surprising. Many of the cellular proteins that are present in our cells actually were evolved, millions of years back, and their function has been maintained throughout these, years of millions of years of evolution, because their function is very, very important for the normal survival of the cell. So a cell cannot afford to mutate the function of these proteins. The complex hops is a complex of 6 proteins that come together, and through electron microscopy studies, we have now come to know the structure of the architecture of this yeast hops complex. And like in yeast and in mammalian cells, hops complex mediates the bridging and fusion of vesicles with the degradative compartment in our cell, which is called as lysosomes. So instead of showing you more data, I thought that I'll take this opportunity to talk to the students and actually pose a question to the scientific audience here, that if, let us say, you were in my place and you wanted to answer this question, that what is the function of a particular protein in the mammalian cell, how would you go about it? So here I would like to use, an analogy from real life. When do we realize importance of a person in our life? Yeah, I think maybe some of you are thinking that when that person is not present anymore in our life, that is when we start to realize what that individual meant for us. So the same analogy can be used here, that through some approach, you should, using a particular reagent, you should try to specifically remove this particular tethering factor from the cells. Now, what kind of reagent would allow you to do that? You can use small RNA, such as siRNA, or I see a typo here, or the CRISPR technique, which has won the Nobel this year. And by the way, the Nobel laureates are 2 women scientists. Okay. So use a technique that would specifically remove this complex from the cells, but that is not enough. You have to design an experiment now to study transport of a particular protein to lysosomes. And through a series of schematic, I just want to share with you how we do it in our lab. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to somehow label the lysosomes. Okay, they should be somehow labeled that you can detect it. So the way that we do it is we take a compound which is fluorescently labeled. The cells take this compound up through the endocytic pathway, and over time this compound will accumulate in the lysosomes. So over a period of 12 hours, if this compound is given to mammalian cells, it will go and accumulate in lysosomes, and now your lysosomes are labeled in green. So now what you need to do is you need to use another particular fluorescent molecule whose journey you want to study till lysosomes. And let us say here we are using a particular protein that is anyways taken up in our cells, called as low density lipoprotein. But this version of LDL is actually fluorescently labeled in red. So now what we want to do is we want to monitor when this red signal reaches the green signal. And if it reaches the green signal, that means cargo has reached the lysosomes. And you can then quantify how much of the red signal has reached the compartment labeled in green, which we know is the degradative compartment in our cells. So let me show you an outcome of such an experiment. When you do this in control cells, cells in which hops is still present, you see a lot of yellow color, which is beautifully illustrated in this inset. That means that the red protein, the protein that was labeled in red, has reached the compartment which was labeled in green. Now, if you compare the control images with images that are acquired from cells knocked down for the hops complex. So these are 3 different cell types in which we have knocked down one particular subunit of the hops complex. You immediately see that unlike the control cells, the hops knockdown cells or cells depleted of the hops complex are unable to traffic their traffic the red signal to the green signal. And if you measure how much of red has reached the green, you see that in control cells, there is a lot of togetherness of these proteins in one compartment, but in Hops knockdown cells, the togetherness is actually very, very low, suggesting that Hops complex is playing a major role in tethering and fusion of the vesicles which was containing that red protein to the green compartment. So based on these experiments and many others, we and many other labs have contributed in establishing that hops is a major tethering factor, major bridging factor, which is regulating cargo trafficking to lysosomes. And why this complex is important, again, I will illustrate this with the help of this slide, that we already have human patients in which there is mutation in hops, subunits of the hops complex. And in these patients, you find that they have a defective clearance of cellular substrates. So the lysosomes are filled with substrates. They are unable to actually clear them away. And this results in degradation of their neuronal cells as well as the muscle cells. And the lifetime of these patients is actually reduced to only the teen years. And therefore, understanding the function of Hops complex is extremely important. Moreover, if you can somehow overexpress or increase the expression of Hops subunits, you can find that you can reverse an outcome of a disease like Parkinson's disease, suggesting that increase in the function of Hops subunits is playing a neuroprotective role. So again, reinforcing that studying this Hops complex, studying how it is regulated, studying what are the factors which are regulating its expression and function is very important, because then you can probably understand these diseases better and also aim for a therapeutic cure for these diseases. And I want to, in my next slide, I want to share with you that why we think that this pathway is very important. I think as scientists, the most frequent word that we have heard this year is coronavirus. So an example of these beta coronaviruses is SARS-CoV-2, which is the cause of the current pandemic. So a recent study had shown that the coronaviruses, SARS-CoV-2 and other family members of the beta coronaviruses, they use lysosomes for exiting from the cell. So the virus infects the cells, it makes multiple copies of itself, and this is happening in the ER and Golgi compartment that I showed you in the beginning of my slide. And from Golgi, this particular packaged virus actually moves into the lysosome and exits from the lysosomes. So a question that is, that is in my mind right now is that whether the tethering factor that we are studying, could it be important for the fusion of this incoming vesicle with the lysosomes? And I suspect that the answer to this question is yes. So this is something that we are, very much interested in, and again just reinforces the importance of these endocytic proteins in normal homeostasis as well as in the disease state. So I'll end here the scientific part of my talk. Some of the things that we have answered in the last 8 years from my group at IISER Mohali is that how this particular tethering complex is localized to lysosomes. We have identified interaction partner of this complex that helps in degradation of cellular cargo. And something that I could not discuss with you today was that we have identified that the bacterial pathogen, which also causes, disease in humans called as gastroenteritis, which is Salmonella typhimurium, it recruits this particular complex so that it can survive in our cells. So with that, I would take this opportunity to acknowledge the people who have done the work. So the work that I showed to you today was done by, previous members of my lab who have all graduated by now. And this is the most recent image of lab. As you can see, as Dr. Anjana was also mentioning, actually currently all of my lab has female students, and I do not find any problem in their motivation levels or typical stereotypes that we associate with women PhD students. I'm extremely proud of the hard work that they do. They are brilliant students who are highly motivated, and I hope that many of them will actually choose to have a career in science. I would also want to take this opportunity to thank the funding agencies, ISER Mohali Seed Funding, as well as India Alliance DBT Welcome Senior Fellowship. So, Rohit, how much time do I have?
Yeah, you have about 5 to 7 minutes.
Okay,
extended to up to 10 minutes maximum.
Okay, great. So I think with that, I would, like to share some snippets from, my scientific journey, and then also kind of address this problem that we are facing in academia at higher positions. So, I associate my scientific journey actually, unlike what Dr. Ranjana was mentioning, my journey in science has been, a straight road with very few curves or bumps. And this has not happened by chance. There are several factors which have allowed me to have a journey that I had. And I have kind of listed them here. So I was blessed with, enlightened parents. So both of my parents were doctors who always, put education and health as the priority thing for, for both of their children. And they were highly supportive in my education, encouraging me for every opportunity that I wanted to have in my life. And that was a wonderful thing. I'm married to a scientist, so I find that the role of a spouse actually becomes very important when you want to start a family, because you want to share the duties of home, so that you can have a work-life balance and you don't have to sacrifice your career for managing home. So the presence of a highly supportive spouse who understands my work, with whom I can discuss both my personal and professional problems, has greatly helped me. When I joined for PhD in the lab of Dr. Steve Kaplan and Nava Naslavsky, I did not realize that how important role they would play in shaping my attitude and shaping my thought process towards a career in science. I had no idea that a mentor can play such an important role. But maybe I was lucky that I joined their lab, that, and the conversations that I've had during my PhD with them have again greatly inspired me to continue, to a path of science and continue to discovering new things. My PhD mentors were also, a husband-wife couple, and seeing that how they enjoy working together has again kind of greatly inspired me. And I see me and Amit, my spouse, also kind of, somewhat, being like Steve and Nava. And one thing that has helped me greatly, that which was not under my control, was at many times in my life, I was at the right place at the right time. So Rohit mentioned about my journey, which I've kind of just, shown here. And so I was a student I was a bachelor student. I completed my bachelor's in 2004, joined for PhD and completed PhD in 2009. And, from completing my bachelor's to a faculty position, I could complete this journey in a period of 10 years or less. And luck played a major role in this, because when I joined as a postdoc in the lab of Michael Brenner, I could enter into a project which was already, shaped up, and I could get a first author publication very quickly. I always wanted to come back to India to pursue my career in science, and having a first author paper in postdoc early on actually helped me to secure a faculty position in one of the, one of the institutes that was upcoming at the time, and is now very much established, ISER Mohali. So, I think looking at the factors that helped me, probably the top and the bottom is not under your control. You cannot decide to decide on who your parents will be, or the luck factor that plays sometimes a role in our lives. But I think there are other factors which you can actually work on. And looking at my journey in science, one may think that, it's all rosy, but clearly I am the exception. I'm not the rule. And this is best illustrated with this, image that I want to show you. This is something that Dr. Ranjana also hinted in her talk, that while we have, good number of women in science who are pursuing master's degree and even PhD degree, that there is a a severe drop which is termed as the leaky pipeline when we look at women who are studying science versus women who are doing science. Okay, there is a severe drop of women at the stage when they are done with their PhDs, and now they are going for postdocs or looking for faculty positions, and this drop just keeps on going further down and down as we go up the higher academic ladder. And again, this stereotype is, this data is kind of reinforced if you Google Indian scientist, as you can see here. So I can imagine that if a young woman, who has done their master's or is still doing BSc would Google this and see, would kind of, see that there is a severe lack of role models. And again, when we look at the top science prizes that are, that are there in our country, you see that there is a severe imbalance. So this was the data from 2017 and 18, and we have one woman scientist, Aditi Sen, who won the Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Award, which was the top science prize. So I cannot talk about all the factors that are leading to this. Many of this have to do with biases that we sometimes fail to recognize that happen at the level of institutions, at the level of selection committees. But let me just go to that slide. There are many societal mindsets that promote this. So one particular line that really resonated with me was that inherent to the nature of science itself is a spirit which is contradicting to what tradition dictates to be the nature of Indian woman. So, as Aruna Rathurayan says in this very famous book, Leelavati's Daughter, that a woman is expected to be docile and not ask too many questions. And I think this societal mindset it's very hard to argue with, but there is definitely a need to change this by talking to, by talking to people who still believe in this mindset. There are more practical issues as well. So for instance, many women students, when they have completed their masters, but more so when they've completed their PhD, they're already in their late 20s, and there is a pressure to marry by their parents and by their relatives, and many people kind of given to this. Even if this may not be their first choice, if it is your first choice, please go ahead, because both marriage and career can be managed, as Dr. Ranjana beautifully kind of illustrated by her own example. There is an additional issue which I find that leads to this dropout or the leak in the pipeline, which is that productivity of a scientist when you are doing postdoc, when you are moving to a faculty position, and reproductivity of a woman, that is when you want to have a child, they coincide. And many women given to the pressure of raising a child, and generally will choose family and children over their career. So the tolerance for highly educated women, it's less in our society, and it mounts to pressure on women scientists to either find a spouse within the field who can understand and support, or basically quit their career in science to start a family. And finally, as a result, for women, science actually becomes an either or choice, and this is not true for men. So I'll end this talk with a wish list that I think is most important. The first thing that I want to say to my audience here is that value yourself. Please love yourself, value yourself, think what you are passionate about and pursue it. You can always explain with conviction to your parents that this is what you want in life, this is who you want your life partner to be, and explain them with conviction. It's easier said than done, I understand that, but don't give up when the first hurdle comes your way. And this again kind of reinforces with this, that value yourself, love yourself, and find what you are most passionate about. Finding a local mentor and friend who you look up to, maybe they have had their share of difficulties, but they have somehow managed to have a career, managed to have a passion, and also are raising their family, contributing to their family. So find them and talk to them. And I just want to use this platform to say that it's very much possible to maintain a career and have a family, and this message needs to spread to parents, to family and colleagues, so that this is not a either or choice. Things can be managed. And again, as Dr. Ranjana put in, that you don't have to do it perfectly. So don't react to the first hurdle, don't react to the first failure that comes your way. I've also put in some things that I feel that are very important at the institutional level that would help working women. A good childcare, a good childcare facility or creche that is needed on every campus, on campus housing. It's very important, and I find myself to be taking advantage of these things that are given by the institute. An improved work climate. We need to have gender sensitization workshops, because so as to realize that we have these stereotypes, there are biases that exist, and that we should accept them and we should try to rectify them. Encourage and reward excellence, which is shown by women. And again, so the selection committees need to acknowledge this, and increased representation of women in conferences as speakers. So hopefully, many of these things, with more awareness, they will be rectified. But we also need that at the level of the individual, please don't give in to the first hurdle that comes your way. If you do dream to be a scientist, then please find the path, pursue it. You get married, have children. It's not impossible to maintain a career and a family balance. Use the support system that you have, and don't try to be a perfectionist in every role. Being good is great. Yeah. So with that, I like to acknowledge, the last part of my talk. I've used data which was given to me by two wonderful female colleagues, Nandita and Ashima, who are running this amazing organization, Life of Science, and they're very active on Twitter, and also through these reports that were published by, in addition to other scientists, by an amazing physicist in our country, Dr. Rohini Godbole. So with that, I'll take questions from the audience if we have time. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Mehak, for this wonderful presentation. We have a very less time, but I'll have one question. There was a question in the chat box by Tanya. She says that how would your research be helpful in the medical industry? I mean, probably she wants to understand it from the commercial point of view.
I think that, although it is generally not possible to inhibit the function of proteins like the one that I talked about, because you would have immediately damaging consequences. But for instance, in neurodegenerative diseases, there are agents, there are small molecules that can be used for enhancing the expression of these proteins. One example is actually a recent study had shown that vitamin E is one of these agents that can increase the expression of this particular protein complex. And maybe increasing the expression or activity of this complex can be very helpful in clearance of protein aggregates. So, yeah.
Okay. And I mean, probably a layman question. I was interested in understanding that as you have described, that coronavirus can actually goes through the cell, through the lysosome. So is it possible that we can have some targeting molecules which can actually inhibit the
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So I think in the same study, they have used some, so this was just published in Cell by a group from NIH, and they have, I think that they have used some small molecules to inhibit this process, to inhibit lysosome exocytosis through which this virus is moving out of the cell.
Okay.
So there are definitely, agents that can intervene at this step.
Okay. Okay. So probably it's a good area of research. Probably we can have some, and in case you need some peptides or something, we are always there. I mean, I am actually a peptide chemist, so probably we can have some later discussion.
I'll keep that in mind, Rohit. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
And I would actually to the, I mean, for our audiences, I just want to share one thing that Mehak is actually one of the very young and very bright upcoming biologists that is coming up. Not only from the, I mean, I'm saying it because she's a woman, but I think she has won a lot of young awards that are there in the country, and she's coming up really wonderfully well. And I think Amit is also to be given a credit, because both of them are actually doing a very wonderful job and supporting each other quite well. So thank you, Amit. Thank you, Mehak and Amit, for this. And with this, I would request Pooja to allow me to introduce in case the next speaker, if I can.
Yeah, Rohit, please go ahead.
Okay. So it is our privilege today to have Dr. Aparna Akula with us. Dr. Aparna Akula is a senior scientist at CSIR, Central Scientific Instrumentation Organization, CSIO, Chandigarh, in the area of computational instrumentation since 2011. She received bachelor's degree in electrical and electronic engineering from National Institute of Technology, Warangal in 2008, and master's in advanced instrumentation engineering from ACSIR in 2011, and PhD in engineering from ACSIR in 2019. She worked for more than a year in 2008 at Philips Innovation Campus, Bangalore, in the area of medical imaging. At CSIR CSIO, her research interests centers on embedding computational intelligence to sensors and systems through the use of computer vision, signal processing, and machine intelligence. She is involved in research projects of national importance with main focus on detection and recognition using infrared and visible imagers, seismic and acoustic sensors spanning across surveillance and disaster management applications. She has more than 18 publications in reputed international journals and 30 conference proceedings papers. She represented India under computational intelligence theme at the BRICS Young Scientist Conclave 2016. She was awarded IEI Young Engineers Award 2017-2018 in recognition to her contributions made towards the electronics and telecommunication engineering disciplines. The Institute of Engineering, she secured international travel support scheme grant from SCRB department, that is from DST, for presenting paper at SPEI Optics and Photonics 2018 in San Diego, California, USA. She was awarded ICCB Conservation Technology Award by Society for Conservation Biology's Conservation Technology Group, with financial support from Microsoft, for presenting her team's research at the 29th International Congress on Conversational Biology in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. With these words, I think she's quite young, and she has taken a lot of awards, and she has been really upcoming in her field. So with these words, I request Dr. Aparna to kindly take over and start her presentation. Thank you, Dr. Aparna.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Rohit. Firstly, thanks INYAS for this opportunity, and it was really nice listening to Dr. Ranjana and Dr. Mehek. Many of the thoughts of Dr. Ranjana echoed very similarly to what I underwent, and even of Mehek's. So I'll take it this way. I'll just walk through a very brief of what our team works in general, giving one specific example of our work. I was given an overview that the audience were even of high school students, so I put it very non-technical. While going through the presentation, I would like to share few of the points of women in science or engineering, and the challenges you face when you especially work in team and field-based projects. So I'll start with sharing my screen. I hope you can see the screen. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm presuming that.
Visible. Yes, it is visible.
Yeah, thank you. So intelligent sensing systems, that's the area I work in. As Rohit already introduced, I work in a department called computational instrumentation, wherein we use computational aspects or intelligence or AI, as we call right now the buzzword, into an instruments or sensor systems to make them more capable of decision making, not just mere picking up of signals. So if I give you an, I'll walk you through an example of human vision. When you see this particular scene over here, probably what would come into our mind? Firstly, you pick the visuals of the scene using your eyes. So your eyes are the sensors which are picking up. But then eyes only pick up that optical signals. But what actually is happening? If you ask me to describe this image, probably I'll say, okay, there's an elephant in that scene, and there's grass over there. Probably it's its own ecosystem. Probably the grass is green, different descriptions. The elephant has tusks. These are the different high-level perceptions or interpretations which our brain does. Now, if the same thing, I want a complete autonomous system to do it, if I need to design such a thing, what would it be? Firstly, I took the example of vision because that's something which we all easily correlate to. It's the moment this image is loaded in your computer, you capture this image using your cameras, in a mobile phone or an SLR camera, different ways you capture an image. But once you capture this image, it's nothing but it's voltage signals which are picked by this, the light falling on the sensor is then converted into a voltage signal which is stored in terms of quantized numbers. So if I take this photograph, instead of taking a print in a digital format or view it, if I want to analyze it, in the back end, it's nothing but few numbers. Somewhere where it has higher values, lower values, indicating that particular intensity of light and the color falling onto that area. But now you need to bring these numbers to and high level interpretation or perception that we need to identify that it's actually an elephant. There's an elephant standing in a grassy area, and the grass is green in color, and the elephant is a darker or gray color. So all these things have to be interpreted or processed by this process. So that's where our team's work is in the area of trying to interpret the information of the basic sensors which is coming out and give out a meaningful and high level perception information. When I say intelligent sensing systems, I'll bring a comparison to us humans. What are the different sensors we have? Like one, vision, which we just saw through eyes. The next strong sense we use is smell. We decide something is very nice or not with a good aura. Aroma should be good. Then a taste. You eat something, something is spicy, something is sugar, sweet. That's a taste. The tongue gives you the taste perception. Then we use our ears to hear to someone calling you out or some kind of a danger, say some sound happening. Oh, you realize, okay, something is happening. So these are the human senses. Other than humans, there are many animals which have senses which humans actually do not have. One of them is infrared sensing, or sensing the light beyond the visible spectrum in the infrared range. Some animals are we do have sensitivity to temperature through our skin by mode of touch, but many animals have a much better perception of temperature. Then a sense of balance, which we in a way do it using our ears, and a way to measure the magnetic field or the electric field, magnetoreception, acceleration. These are the non-traditional senses or things which can be sensed. What we try to do is we try to design systems using, depending on the application use case, the most relevant one or multiple sensors as an input, and collect the information from the sensors of that particular scene and then process it for an end application. At CSIO, whatever work I'm discussing, it's not my work, it's our team's work, wherein we work on different projects. 4 particular areas I wanted to share, where we use different sensors to take describe this intelligent sensing part of it. One area which I wanted to discuss is the environment. In the environment where we are working on is for wildlife conservation or technology for wildlife or wildlife monitoring, you can say. One use case where we want, there is, if you can see this particular railway line, it's cutting through a forest area. In the name of development, we actually have encroached their own habitat. But now when there is a train movement, there is a threat to the elephants and the other wildlife in that present in the ecosystem from us. We are trying to design a system using different possible sensors which would be suitable in this particular application to pick up the movement of elephants and other wild animals in that zone. And if that movement coincides with the time when the train also is coming in that area, an alert is sent to the forest department or the railways to protect the wildlife. And another application is disaster management. I think all of us, at least in the north, might have experienced one or other earthquake tremors at different points of time, wherein you felt a shaking of a building or a fan which is hanging, just shivers. You see, when an earthquake happens, there is movement of the tectonic plates. So what we do in an earthquake warning system is this vibration of the occurring in the earth surface and not earth core is what is picked up by the sensors, in this particular case accelerometers, to measure or understand the disturbance of a natural normal earth vibration which is happening versus that specific occasion when an earthquake is happening. So we analyze the signals continuously to look for patterns, and if a particular pattern corresponding to earthquake is detected, we raise an alarm or warning. So again, there is sensing, there is intelligence in terms of processing this information from the sensors, and depending to the use case, the deployment of the sensors in this particular case is across different places so that we get information from all sides of a region to make sure we pick up the impending earthquake much ahead. Another application area where we work is in the area of safety and security. In the vital installations or critical structures where we need to protect them from any kind of intrusion or threat from unwanted people and forces. So how do we do it? We augment the existing security forces with systems which are capable of detecting even the slightest movement of a person trying to jump over a wall, or a vehicle coming in a no man's zone where there's supposed to be no motion over there, and then analyze that thing automatically and again give you an alert. Another area which we work on is smart home or wellness area, where a specific emphasis is on observing the motion or the movement of a particular human to understand if there is any abnormality. If the person is say a use case where it's an elderly person staying alone at home, there's no one, it's being this system continuously monitors for any kind of unwanted events like a person falling down or some kind of risk from an intruder coming in and fighting. So whatever you did, call them as abnormal events, are what the system is trained to identify, compare, segregate them from a normal daily life activities, and then alert this. So in nutshell, this is the areas which I work on along with my other team members. Specifically, I want to talk of the wildlife application, not from a technical perspective, but the way it has taught me and brought in a lot of challenges as a researcher in general, and specifically being an woman research person. Firstly, when I'm an engineer by degree and I work primarily in an engineering field, but this specific application needs an understanding of wildlife, the ecosystem. I've never been into a forest area working. It's only as a tourist, just come down. But then this first has taught us to understand what and how you need to understand that particular ecosystem. So first and foremost, this work brings in one critical part, that you are as an individual or as one particular team cannot achieve anything which is encompassing multiple aspects. So you need interdisciplinary collaborations. You need to move beyond your boundaries or comfort zone and interact with people so that you understand their viewpoint. In this particular case, our collaborators were from Wildlife Institute of India and WWF India. So we interacted with the wildlife biologists, the field experts, the forest people to understand what actually happens. What are the challenges? Because I designed something in a lab and we just go and put there, it's not going to work that way. In a lab scenario is you assume things, but in reality, unless we know what are the challenges, say for example, someone might say, okay, CCTV cameras are being used for monitoring our homes, why not just use that as a base? But firstly, a forest ecosystem, the first time when we reached there, we realized that this particular landscape keeps changing. The summer season when we visited the forest is completely different from after rains. There's dense outgrowth of vegetation and nothing is visible. Even if leave about leopard or any other deer animal, an elephant which is so huge, if it is right next to you behind a bush, you have no idea, because it's completely obscured or occluded by the bushes, the trees over there. So we had to interact with them to understand the nitty-gritties and do. And secondly, what area, when I'm the forest area where we are working on is deep inside and beyond the regular tourist zone. It's almost 10 kilometers interior we travel, and then we reach to this place. And just to maintain the natural ecosystem, there's no power or any communication or anything over there. So the first thing we had to adapt ourselves is, how do we do our experiments? You can't be expecting a complete air conditioned room or a power supply 24/7 available to you to do your work. We had to come out with creative, innovative ideas of working, doing our work. And then each and every person of your team matters. Firstly, be ready to work in a group, respect the others' position and capabilities, value them. Everyone has their own strength. You might be intellectually better, someone might be physically strong, someone might be agile in taking decisions. Or in field, when you are working in group, use complementary skill sets, work together. And I would like to bring out one point: don't bring in at any point of time a thought that, okay, I'm a woman, how can I be comfortable with the boys, or how can I be comfortable with men? I think I should have my boundaries, or if I talk maybe with they might think some. Value yourself, don't inhibit yourself. Most of the times, if you do this, the rest people actually support you. The first step, if you are confident and take it, and you're like, no, I am okay, I will go to the field and work, then actually support. There are some outliers where you might not get support, but majority would actually do. But you are the one who should take that first plunging step. If that's not taken, no one can help. You need to value your work, your capabilities, and then plunge in when the situation demands. If I say to my seniors, no, I'm not going to take this work, or I can't go to the field, it's not going to affect in any way to them, but it's affecting you. If it is your passion, if it's your choice to go and do some deployment kind of field works, then you should not hesitate in that manner. But then probably you might have this question that, okay, this is all sounding great, fine, but then what about family, or how would that work? Maybe you need to travel, or you need to move out of the city, or go in places where, then how about family, or what would be the thing? I'll say two aspects to it. One, when you see your end results of what you want to, you would be so happy that all your pain and your compromises would not actually matter. And second, many points which Dr. Ranjana has shared, ma'am has shared, I have unknowingly picked or adapted them, and that's how I manage. I am very happy in a way to say that the first point which Mehak shared about the parents, I was lucky in that manner that I had educated parents who never told no to anything. So it's like BTech, MTech, PhD, whatever you want, wherever you want to work. Let me travel. I just wanted to say, like, I've been working in Chandigarh for more than 10 years, but my hometown is almost 2,500 kilometers away, 2,000 kilometers away. And my parents never raised this point that why do you want to opt for a job which is so far off? They're like, it's fine, whatever you want to do, as long as you're doing it right, you like it, go ahead. So I had never problem in choosing my career. The first part was that comfort zone. Then again, I would bring in the Mehak, Dr. Mehak's slide, the point of supportive spouse. Our stories align in a way that I have a spouse from the same field who supports, understands the work, collaborates. So I really didn't have any issues even after marriage. Travel, moving around, or being vocal, participating in events. But the one instant which I wanted to share is after I had a beautiful daughter in 2015. Despite very supportive ecosystems, I had issues, or not really problems, but the challenges, and which was at some point or the other would be a obstacle to you. If you think they're an obstacle, it's up to you. How do you manage? So obviously I can't leave a small child and travel whenever I wish to, unless I have a supportive ecosystem. That's where I strongly agree with Dr. Ranjana's ma'am's words. My strongest support is my parents and in-laws, and I feel very happy in asking their help. Of course, we are all family, and if you are not ready to ask them for help when you need, it doesn't serve the purpose. You want to do something great, you are ambitious, but you're not ready to accept or ask help from your family, then how can you ask or reach out or network with international collaborators and work? First, you need to be open, share your problems and situations with the near and dear ones. So that's what I did. Despite both my parents and in-laws staying far away from here, we make sure I inform them much ahead. They travel down, they stay with us, take care of the baby, and then I manage my travels. And the rest of the time on regular office days, I really thank the ecosystem where we have a very good crèche facility at CSIO, which I use. I'm completely benefiting from it, where I drop my daughter over there. I pick her up after my office time. At times, if I need to work beyond office hours, I even take her to the office, and she is happy looking and experimenting at a lab. And again, I'll say, don't delink your family from work. At least make them part of the fun part of it. Like, I keep sharing with her all this, especially this elephant and wildlife project with her a lot, because being a kid, she can understand, she's excited. So once I need to travel, upfront I inform her, okay, I'm going here and this is my work, that's the reason I'm going. And once after come back, I share with her the pictures of my results or something where, or I share the stories which happened over there. I make sure she's connected and she's understanding. In this way, luckily I could continue my journey over the last 5 years along with my daughter, with support from family, into my research, not just in the lab, but also in field. And to others, individual female students and researchers, I would only say, be confident, look out for help. don't back out without giving it a try. If things don't work, obviously then take a back step. But even before giving it a try, don't assume that it's not going to work or it's not doable and I can't get into that situation. That's what I wanted to share. And another thing which repeatedly comes up is lack of women role models in science or STEM. Yes, we do lack, but I would strongly suggest don't restrict yourself for looking for role models only in women. Be open, pick up from and learn from anyone. Male, female does not matter. There are many scientists and many of my seniors and team members, despite being men, they understand the situations and support us. Many a times what actually happens is we presume that no, they're not going to understand, they're going to oppose. But if you show your passion to work and not to back out for anything, I think the ecosystem works. And beyond this, there are government policies that institutional and national level people are working on it. So the high level things which are to be done, we are in a right place where the government and the scientific institutions are actually trying to do. From our side, now it's the time that we also do what we should do. That's it. Thank you. And if anyone wants to have any discussion technically or anything in terms of any aspects in working or women in science or anything in that, I'm open for it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Aparna, for a very nice talk. And actually, you have mixed the use of technology in the nature in a very perfect manner. The way you are using the geoseismic sensors for understanding the movement of elephants and other animals, I think this is remarkable. I was thinking that probably you can you will get a different type of a signal for different type of species of the animals. For example, depending on the weight of the particular animals, you can get a different type of signal. Is it so?
Yes. So the signature depends on multiple factors. One being weight, one being the gait pattern in itself. Because even being a lightweight, a leopard or a deer jumps, especially deers, the way they jump and go, versus an elephant or a leopard, when it wants to hunt, it goes very stealth manner. Despite having more weight, the signatures are there. That's where the AI part comes in, where we try to capture the dynamic variations of one single species. It's not always the same. Take an analogy that if you're in a hurry, you keep running and going. If you're participating in a race, the way you run is different.
Yeah.
If you are doing a leisure walk, it is different. If you want to hide something from some, and you take a very slow step. So the same thing happens in nature. So different species, the same species in themselves has a lot of variations and different species. So there is that's where we are trying to bring out uniqueness in that signatures.
So a different type of a signature produces a different type of
yes,
different type of signature. Okay. So I think with this, I will hand over to Dr. Pooja, and I'll just want to say one thing, that there is a proverb which goes by the that behind every successful man there is a woman. I think the time has come that it should be changed, because probably this was made when only the successful professional people were men and there were very few women there. But now actually more women are coming up, and I think probably we should change it to behind every successful person there is a woman, because women itself or herself is actually behind her success. And I think mothers also play a very important role in our society. And I as mothers become more they become more aware, they become more knowledgeable, I think the society grows in a very better manner. So I have learned a lot, and I have probably we will become a better person with this. So with these words, I would request Dr. Pooja to kindly take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rohit, for nicely coordinating it. And thank you, Dr. Mehak and Dr. Aparna, for very wonderful session. And like Dr. Anjana said, it's not men versus women. It's both are equal. It's basically for the benefit of science. We want like participation of all the genders. So if as a woman you entered into this field, follow your passion, and to follow this passion, build a support system and definitely value yourself. I see Dr. Sardana is with us. So I request Sardana sir if you want to say a few words before we close today's session.
No, just thanking everyone who actively participated and shared their stories both ways, personal front as well as research front. So it's really wonderful having a session which is led by women, and rightly so, and bringing a lot of changes to the society. So we look forward to more of such listenings. Maybe there are two more days. Great day we have made. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So we will have next session tomorrow at 3, and link will be shared with all the participants. Thank you, everyone, for joining.